This is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 119 for November 10th, 2017. I'm Crash.
And I'm Daddy No Fun.
Daddy No Fun, more like Daddy Mouthful.
Yeah, I was going to say, you like I did that with a mouthful of food?
I told you to eat a dick. I didn't mean right now on air.
That's a different kind of
Anyway, so we have Spencer Hill, the gear dude, on air today.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
You have a pretty a new addition to the family since the last time we've had you on the show. How's that going?
Yeah, it's a 1090 KTM. No, I'm joking.
Also a new motorcycle.
Yeah. I'm calling them my 2017 models.
Nice. So how old is the baby?
She is 2 months. She was 2 months on the 3rd. So yeah, 9 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That's exciting.
And the kid? How old is the kid?
Yeah, right. No, the 1090 is out of the break-in period. You know, we've done the break-in service, so I mean, she's growing quick. Right in
What do you
front
think of that? What do you think of that thing?
Oh, I friggin' love it, man.
I'm actually kind of confused about whether we're talking about the child or the motorcycle at this point.
It's all the same. They get equal treatment.
Yeah.
Is that the 1090 is new front end, new TFT display?
No, it doesn't have the 1290 display. It doesn't have the like iPad mini looking thing.
So that's only the 1290R that has that though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Because they carried over your bike, the 1290 Travel or whatever, and they basically just kept rolling that one out the same. And then they had the 1290 Adventure R, which is the sort of more off-road oriented version. And then they got rid of the 1190 and moved to the 1090, which is more off-road focused.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe this is only in the European market. There's a third 1290 that they're making as well, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like between my bike and the R. It's like an S model or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that for sale in the United States or not?
I haven't seen one in the United States. I honestly don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of replacing, you know how they had like the 1190 Adventure R and the 1190 Adventure?
Right.
Adventure was kind of, it didn't have the 21-18 combo. It was more of like just a like touring bike. I think that's kind of the slot that bike fills.
All right, so let's backtrack for a second, because Crash and I are assuming that people that are listening have always listened and know who you are, and I'll just make a quick short intro and then Spencer can talk about what he does. But Spencer Hill can be found as the gear dude on most all social media, and he is pretty well connected in the adventure motorcycle community for a long time, and he's got also some affiliations with KTM and KTM Twins, and he's got a lot of experience riding in the Pacific Northwest and pretty much, I would say, all over the western part of the United States. Done a lot of the BDRs and was really the brains behind the whole first Ride Up the Divide trip and kind of my partner in crime with that whole thing. So this is who we're talking to, and he's a friend of Crash and I's, and we kind of bring him on whenever we can. So he's going to just ride with us for this show. But in the meantime, I'm going to pick his brain a little bit. Since you got the 1090, and I know you've been riding around and doing some testing on an Africa Twin, how do you compare the two?
See, it's a weird comparison. I put like 600 miles on an Africa Twin in like 3 days down in California for that Ride the Sierras event, the Adventure Rally. And I like the Africa Twin like a shitload more than I wanted to.
I
It
know
was
what that's like, liking a bike more than you wanted to.
yeah, because I mean, I had test ridden an Africa Twin before, just kind of like around parking lots and shit, like a lame demo ride. And this was like a loaner bike from Honda, and
Oh, so like just thrash it, treat it like a rental.
yeah. It may have been the second Honda this year that I've messed up pretty good. Anyways, yeah, so I had this thing for this event and I liked it a lot. And we ended up on a trail that we never should have been on. It was like what they called a triple black diamond. We were riding with people that have ridden the Rubicon, and they said it was more difficult than that.
Oh,
and so
really?
we ended up on that by mistake, on this Africa Twin and a 2017 R1200 GS Rally. So we had some expensive shit on the trail. But anyway, so I got to test that thing on the most difficult terrain I've ever ridden on a full-size adventure bike, you know? So I liked it a lot, but the difference between the Honda and the 1090 is, you know, it's capable, it handles its weight really well, it carries itself, but it doesn't blow your hair back. You're not doing first gear wheelies, you're not doing any wheelies. And I don't know why that's so important to me, but
isn't it the same horsepower as a 1090?
No.
Really?
Yeah. Especially in off-road mode, when you put the 1090 down in off-road mode, that's about the same. And they say that that the Africa Twin has more torque down low and blah 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 and all this stuff. But I guess I'm just accustomed to the KTM feel of having more power than you necessarily like need. And I like it. It gets me out of trouble sometimes. It gets me into trouble a lot of times too, but I like having it there. And I sort of like, one example is we were riding these big open slabs in the Sierras, those huge rock faces. Mm-hmm. And there would be like step ups, right? Like a 2-foot step up, or even like a solid 6-inch step up.
Yeah, almost like going over a curb.
Yeah. At a really steep angle though, yeah. And on a KTM, like you just kind of pop the clutch and you could blip the front end up easily and clear that, not even think about it. And I tried several times on the Africa Twin, and I'm not the best at doing wheelies or anything, but I couldn't. So I kept like messing myself up and like thinking that I was going to like dent a rim or something.
Huh. So, what's the traction? Is the traction control like a lot more conservative on the Honda?
On the Honda, yeah, it's kind of more basic, and it's a push button thing. There's no computer like the 1090, which is it's easier to disable, when you're on the bike. Whereas the 1090, it's kind of like a process to go through the Steve, the game of going through the computer and turning the stuff off. I have to get the next thing I got to do is get a dongle from KTM that makes it so that it stays in off-road mode, basically.
Yeah, it's what they call I think the bad fuel dongle or something, or.
Yeah, they got to call it the bad fuel dongle, because if they said it disabled ABS, then they would be
in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because I was under the impression you were going to say that they were the same, but okay. I mean,
and on the road, I mean, you can easily. I mean, Steve, with your bike, I mean, you get up to 100, and you're like, oh, I'm doing 100.
Right?
Like, isn't that nice?
And God forbid if you disable the traction control mode, because then it just becomes an animal.
Yeah, I mean, I can power slide out of my alley on pavement, and that is like, it's not like something that is a good idea, but I don't know. It's the KTM's exciting, and the Honda, like, I thought with all these new bikes that they've announced this week, I said that if Honda released a rally version of the Africa Twin, or like the equivalent of an R version, mm-hmm. Off-road specific one, I would have seriously considered getting either a long-term test bike when that came out, or buying one, because it was so consistent, you know.
Okay, so what did they did release another version, right? That's got like,
it's a touring version. It's got 1 more gallon of fuel, and they say the body works a little bit better for wind protection, and it's just, it looks more like the older version of the Africa Twin. It's the wrong direction, if you ask me, because what the Africa Twin had going for it was its simplicity, it's the way that it carried its weight, and that kind of stuff, you know.
mm-hmm. All right, because the picture that I saw had something that might have been a concept bike. It had like bigger engine guards and a big underslung engine case guard. I don't know. It might have just been an accessory package on the normal Africa Twin.
Yeah, that's part of the new one, is they built like a big belly pan on it and stuff.
Right.
Well, I cracked the water pump housing on the one that I had in California. It's pretty a learning experience.
On that trail?
Yeah. We came off that trail with a cracked water pump housing. Eric Hall from XL80V, he sheared his foot peg clean off of his Africa Twin, like literally just gone. The 1200 GS had a cracked valve cover, and the shifter was broken off, and the cracked valve cover was pissing oil on the way back. This was like 11 o'clock at night. We were trying to get back, and we had to use like our Delorme inReaches to like have people send water and food out to meet us at the trailhead. Like, it was some serious shit. And his boot kept getting covered in hot oil, so he would have to like stop and run over to like the side of the road and like stick his boot in dirt to like cool his foot off from the hot oil and shit. It was pretty gnarly.
Sounds like a lot of fun. How would you compare that trail to Johns Hill?
It was like Johns Hill, except with boulders.
Wow, that makes it significantly worse.
It was interesting. My experience level has increased a lot since then, and I think I could do the Johns Hill now a lot easier. And I remember thinking about that when I was on this trail. It was called Swamp Creek. And
so what would you do different? Because Johns Hill, almost with no run up, you know. I
have more confidence to hit it with more speed.
Okay.
Just much more speed.
It's funny because I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos of guys that have run on that accidentally, like Dean did, where they were coming from the north going to the south, and it's deceiving because from that angle it doesn't look really steep, and these guys were like, you know, pulling a Dean with the motor shut off, the biking gear, and kind of like waddling it down.
It's all fine if you got long legs, but if you're one of us short leg bastards, then you're in for the ride, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so we'll talk more about that real quick. You posted something on Instagram the other day that you got some kind of a build going on. I reposted it. Tell us about that.
So yeah, I just announced it today, actually. So this is my second build that I've done with KTMtwins.com.
But is it really a build if you're just doing bolt-on parts?
So as I just finished answering a comment on my Instagram, the last bike we did a really cool custom MST Italian rally fairing with a custom bracket that I made up to fit these Cyclops long range LED lights and stuff. And we had companies like Seat Concepts make us a custom saddle, and Rottweiler Performance got with us and you know, threw all the performance mods at it. So yeah, I'm calling it a build. Technically, we put a lot of money into it. But anyways, yeah. So that was the first one. I did a KTM 690, and we called it the Ultimate 690, and we built that out. And I rode that on a couple BDRs this year and did some trips, and I did a full write-up on it on advpulse.com. And so then we finished that. The 690 was like kind of done, and we're talking about the 790, but that's not till 2019. So we decided to go 1090 because I was really interested in the bike after riding one down at the Overland Expo this year. And it was another bike I was like, I don't want to like this. Because, I mean, I loved the 1190 on the road, but the 1190 always kind of scared the crap out of me off-road. And I got on this 1090 down at the Overland Expo, and I was like, God damn it, now I got to buy one of these. So anyways, we decided to do the 1090 as the next KTM Twins bike, and we got it, and it's currently at Conflict Motorsports right now getting the suspension done, and it's down there for like another couple of weeks because they're literally sending the forks off to Japan to get custom Kashima coating, which is basically like unobtainium, and it's like a bronze coating, and it looks really cool. It's way above my head. It's like rally racers and professional motocross and that kind of shit, and it's gonna look really cool, but it's over my head. Anyways, so yeah, we decided to do it, and then KTM North America kind of got in touch with me, and they were like, hey, we see you're doing this build, looks really cool, we'd like to get involved. And so that kind of blew me away, and that's what my post was about today, that they decided to get involved, which is super cool just for the cross-promotion aspect of it, you know, because they have like a million followers on Instagram, and it's just kind of cool to be recognized for me to even be on their radar, you know.
Yeah, maybe they'll give us bikes for the TAT.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, they threw down Charlie and Ewan, you know, so I don't think they'd make that mistake twice.
No, that was a huge marketing faux pas for KTM, and they based that decision on some third party, which was really stupid. And that wasn't KTM USA either. In all fairness, that was Europe. Hey, so you said something about the 1190s scaring the crap out of you. Is it a big difference between the 1090 and the 1190? I mean, is it really that noticeable?
The suspension is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I had primarily, I didn't ride the 1190R as much as I rode the 1190 Adventure because, you know, Jarrett, I rode his bike a lot, and the suspension, I called it teleporting because it would do that scary ass thing where the front wheel would hit something and then all of a sudden it would be like totally unpredictable into like another spot, you know, whereas with the 21-inch front on like my 690, it just kind of, it was predictable where it was going to go, you know. And the weight, obviously the weight difference going from the 690 to the 1190 was a lot, you know, and it's not that much less for the 1090, but I think it carries its weight really well.
All right, cool.
Hey, looks like Jess is making it in.
Perfect.
Hello.
So
where's Jess coming from?
The other room.
The other studio.
Yeah. Yep. Studio living room at the Cafe Racer podcast estate.
Hey guys.
Hi, Jess.
Hey.
You're a little quiet, Jess, just to give you a heads up.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, that's way better. The video is so much better because we can like see up your nose.
Up my nose.
Yeah. So
hey, so what other bikes? Because I missed a lot of the EICMA release, other than that Moto Guzzi concept.
I was going to ask
the
you
85 thing.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I know you guys think it's probably ugly as sin, but
dude, there's so many people in like Slack and on Instagram that are like, I think it's beautiful, I love it, and I'm like, that thing's fuck ugly.
Man, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That bike is gorgeous, man.
Coming from the guy that wrote
You're
a Stelvio or whatever. What, Stelvia? That was his song? Yeah.
Stelvio, yeah.
The Moto Guzzi Stevia.
Yeah. It was like an uninspiring 12 GS, basically.
I rode your Stelvio very briefly when we were at Overland Expo, and it was nice to ride. I didn't have anything to complain about, about it.
There was a guy. Well, I'll tell you right now, that bike was horrendous off road. I mean, it wasn't really. It was a touring bike, is what it was. That was about it. It was a big giant pig. But when I rode the 1290 the first time, the difference between the two bikes was so night and day, it wasn't even funny. I mean, you talk about having power on tap. The Stelvio was, like I said, it's like driving a Volkswagen Beetle compared to a Ferrari. It was just such a difference. And then even though the center of gravity, the weight's really held low on it, the back end is very heavy because of that big, heavy shaft drive on the back, and the suspension is not responsive at all. It's just not. It's a great bike for a touring bike, like, and especially for the money, because you can compare that bike to, not off-road capability, but what you get for the dollar, like the older GS Adventure without the new system on it and the electronics, because you got an 8-gallon fuel tank, you got auxiliary lights, which were garbage, you got engine guards, everything that you got, bags. The package wasn't bad for like 14 grand, what you were going to spend. Especially for a touring bike. I did 7,000 miles on that bike that one summer when I went to Overland Expo West, and it was fine. And for a dirt road, a gravel road, that was fine. But for anything more than that, it's just not really capable. I had it in some sand, and it just was really heavy and hard to maneuver. This smaller bike looks cool, that they made this 850 that they've got coming out. I'm wondering what else they're going to put that motor in. A cafe bike would be cool with that motor, because the 750 is a dog.
Yeah,
with like 38 horsepower.
I don't know. There's been a ton of pictures from EICMA, like just bombarding everyone's Instagram or whatever. Really quick, one of the reason Jess is on, actually. So last weekend, was it?
Yeah, last weekend.
We went on this ride with Rob from, he's a listener, he's in Slack, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, Rob he works for the sheriff's department, and he told us about this Save the Bacon ride, which is a ride that's a charity event for a foundation that helps wounded sheriff's deputies and their families. So he had talked to the local BMW dealership, and they were like super excited about letting us borrow bikes for the event, because it's like an almost entirely Harley event, and they were like excited to have, their bikes around all these Harley people. So it was me, Rob, and then another guy, and between the three of us, there were 2 R9Ts and the K1600B, which I will screen share.
That thing was comfy.
Really? You liked it, Jess?
Yes.
Did it have armrest?
No, it didn't have armrest, and it didn't have a back seat for me, so I was still, hooking up on Chris, but it was so comfortable, and the seat was heated.
Yeah, it didn't have a backrest. It had a back seat, but it didn't have a backrest. Nice. So it's on the screen right now. Yeah. I mean, Spencer, you and I talked crap about the concept bike that this thing came from. This was a perfect example of not expecting to like something nearly as much as I did.
I bet you it rides like a dream, though.
Dude, it's like riding a freaking hoverboard. Like, you do not know that there's a road.
Floating. Chris and I were falling asleep.
That might not be a good thing, though.
We're going, okay, so day one with this bike was I rode my Bonneville to the dealership on Friday, like during work, and then rode it back to work. I was going like over 100 miles an hour on the way back to work because I wasn't paying attention to the speedometer, and I didn't feel like I was going fast because there's no wind. It's got, a push button adjustable windshield, like it just raises and lowers however much you want it to. So I'm just like sitting back there and like no wind at all. Just like look down, like, oh shit, I'm going 100 miles an hour. I should probably slow down. It's a six-cylinder.
That front wheel looks so tiny on that thing compared.
It does look tiny.
I think it's a 13-inch, right? That's a 13-inch front wheel.
I'm pretty sure it's a
scooter front wheel.
Like, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure it's a 17. Like,
see, the difference between this though and that concept bike. I'm sorry, Roland. That concept bike was butt ugly.
Well, I mean, it had like faux wood paneling on it.
Yeah,
this thing, I mean, the lines on this, I don't know. I tend to like the back end of the Goldwing a little bit better, but
Yeah.
it's still a cool bike.
So yeah, we rode
know?
this thing, and then day 2, she's on the back. We rode, I don't know. I think it's like 50 or 60 miles, from where we live to like where we stopped during the ride, and like it's a ton of curvy, twisty roads. The bike felt great, like in them, like it's. There was, no feedback. So if you're one of those people that like really wants to be able to feel what the bike is doing, this is not for you. Just trust that the motorcycle is in fact touching the ground, because you won't know. But like I never felt like I was lean. When I drove it home, I was worried. Like a couple times in like turns, I was like, man, am I gonna start grinding stuff? Like I'm kind of going over pretty far for this big wide thing, and I never like touched anything to the ground. And yeah, there was a few times that I'm sitting there like,
yeah, I was getting tired too.
That's like why I got rid of the SC1300. I mean, it wasn't boring, was it? It was just comfortable.
Yeah, it was just super comfy. And then we got to Julian, California, and switched to the Urban GS, or as Phil Waters calls it, the Turbangs.
Yeah, both of us on that little thing.
So we were stopped at this gas station, and Rob and I switch bikes, and I say to Jess, hey, you probably want to just hang out on the K1600 with Rob. And she's like, no, I want to ride on this with you. 5 minutes in. She's like, I made a mistake.
I want to switch. I want to go back.
We had like another 60 miles to go.
So did you notice, were you annoyed by the brake master cylinder guard on the right-hand foot peg at all, or did it not bother you?
On the Urban GS?
Yeah.
I didn't notice it at all.
Okay. And that's just me.
Yeah. I didn't notice that at all.
That piece right there was driving me absolutely nuts, to the point where I couldn't concentrate on what I was doing because that thing was digging into the side of my foot so much. But
yeah,
all right.
It was, for me, like, to compare it to the Bonneville, because they're slightly similar in purpose, retro styled, thing. This thing felt like it had taller, wider handlebars, and the foot pegs, like from the seat to the foot pegs, are a little more aggressive stance. By myself, this bike, like when I rode this back to the dealership, I had to go back by myself. By myself, the bike was super fun. I could definitely see myself enjoying one, like owning one and really enjoying it.
It was fun to be on the back. There just wasn't enough room back there. My butt was hanging off. So, and my feet were really cramped. My legs were really cramped up. But other than that, the
bike's
fun.
Really not. Yeah, it's not really designed for a long-term pillion on it. Yeah,
no.
Most of these bikes like this are single rider,
Yeah. So one thing that was fun was during the event, like every time we stopped anywhere, like when we pulled up to the sheriff's, like the local union office, which is where the ride started for the sheriff's department, just a crowd of people, like
people
around
flocked.
this bike.
People that own Harleys.
Yes.
And like, what's it like to be able to feel your hands when you get off the bike?
Yeah, there were a bunch of people like, oh, is this the new bagger? Like, wow, this thing's really cool. And then there was a guy there that owns an S1000 XR, which is like the Ducati Multistrada style thing that BMW makes.
Yeah, the real sporty touring one.
Yeah. I think that bike is terribly ugly, but it seems like a lot of fun.
I know 2 guys that bought that bike and sold it right away because of the vibration.
Really?
Yeah, it has a lot of problems. I mean, I think the second gen, they tried to solve some of that issue, but one of my buddies had one and it didn't last very long in his garage. And he's got a couple bikes, and he's got like a Super Duke too. And he got rid of that to buy the new RS that they came out with.
Okay.
R1290 RS, I think it is, or R1300 RS, whatever the new RS they came out with. But
yeah, I don't know.
He wanted to really like that bike a lot and had nothing but problems with vibration on it.
The dealer, when we took these bikes back to the dealer, I'll stop screen sharing. But yeah, when we took the bikes back to the dealer, the guy, like the salesman, were kind of chatting with us a little bit, and they both said, like, yeah, the K1600 is, the smoothest thing like they've ever ridden. But as far as fun, the R1200 RT is more fun and almost as comfortable. It's really kind of made me rethink a little bit, what would be the next bike. Like, I did not consider a touring bike as an option. And after riding that thing, I'm like, I don't know, maybe.
Dude, man, you got to ride the 1290 Super Adventure. It's such a great all-around motorcycle.
Spencer's like, if I can get one more person to buy a KTM, I will have,
If I'm dumb enough to listen to him after he sat there and told me how they eat themselves from the inside, and this motor's going to blow up, and then this thing's and then he goes, but you should buy one, and then of course I went and bought one. Yeah.
I was at a KTM dealership.
You know how you're talking about how the BMW kind of like put you to sleep?
Yeah.
The big KTMs, they don't put you to sleep, man. They are rambunctious and so much power on tap that it's just, I mean, there's never a time that I don't have fun when I get on one of those bikes,
Yeah. I felt that way on the Urban GS. But there were, that it was like very lively and had a lot more personality than the Bonneville. The K1600 was just like a lazy cruise missile. Like,
I bet you could wind it up to like 125 and you wouldn't even know it. Like going through
absolutely not. Yeah.
Stuff, you could just like.
I did $120 on the Urban GS and it felt like we were gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my whole body was just like.
You break 100 on a 690, and it's like somebody had a really funny meme that was like. From Back to the Future, is like when we hit 88 miles an hour, you're going to see some serious shit. That's what it was like. Over like 88 miles an hour, it's like, holy shit, what's going to happen?
Right. Yeah, I didn't even like being on that bike doing 60 miles an hour. It's so funny because when you don't grow up on small bikes, like a dirt bike type thing, when Spencer and I switched bikes one day, I was like, I don't like this at all, man. It's just way too responsive. There's way too much feel going on here. I don't like it. Yeah.
Well, like Rob rides a V-Strom 650 and he rode the R9T all the way up to Julian, and he was telling me, he's like, dude, is this what it's like to ride your Bonneville? Like, I'm not used to riding anything that doesn't have wind protection. Like, I got up to 80 miles an hour and I thought I was going to fall off the back of it. And then I got on it. I was like, this thing's great, because I'm used to riding a bike that doesn't have a windshield on it.
Yeah, that's a different experience too for people that have never done that. And I don't know, man. I want that. Those bikes, the R9s, are something I really, really wanted to love, and just I didn't really care for it, because I rode the one that the Scrambler version, I guess it is, that came out, and just I don't know. It was. I guess I'm gonna have to give it another shot. Speaking of a Scrambler, I got the friend of mine, Brendan, who lives down here, gave me the number for the guy that I told you about that had the Ducati Scrambler that's going to do the TAT. I've got I'm going to contact him and see if I can get him on the show. I didn't tell you this, Spencer, but when I was at Overland Expo East, I saw this Ducati Scrambler all decked out with Moscow Moto, like, the rackless system on it. And I ended up talking to the guy, and he did the TAT on a Super Tenere. I think he like destroyed 2 of them on there. The ones that have the automatic transmission or clutchless. They make a clutchless version of the Super Tenere?
I don't know. I know they make an electronic suspension one.
I don't know. He destroyed 2 of these things on there, and he might have had an Africa Twin as well. But he's doing this thing on a Ducati Scrambler next, so I'm going to get him on the show. We're going to talk about it.
How fast do you
kill
think you could do the TAT? How fast do you think you could do the TAT?
Well, this guy tried to set a 12-day record and didn't make it, and he's going to try to do it in 12 days.
Because I want to do it in 14. That was my goal that I set for us.
Well, I think this guy did it in 15. So how many miles is it total?
The shitload. It's like 3,500 or 3,600 or something.
No, we did 3,000 miles in 15 days. 15.
Oh, was it 15?
Yeah, and one of those days we didn't do shit.
Yeah, no,
so
this is going to be a different ball of wax for sure.
So that's 250 miles a day if you do it in 14 days.
Let's put this in perspective, because we were doing that. There was a bike race that went the opposite direction, and the person a mountain bike race. And I have yet to confirm this, but these guys told us this that we met, that said the person who won it did it in 13 days on a mountain bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hardcore.
It's definitely
but they're going from north to south, right?
Yeah, north to south.
Well, but like they had the gravity, like they're going from top to bottom. They just coast.
They're going down
the whole way, right? That's how maps work, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's right.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're going down the side of the planet, so there's always, anytime you go north to south, you're going down, so there's gravity.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to the desert, you built so much momentum up that you're going like 250 miles an hour.
He's lucky his wheels didn't come apart.
Oh, and it was a she, by the way, too.
All right. I'm sorry for assuming gender.
Yeah, we're in big trouble now. That's like 7 letters we're gonna get for
2017 crash. Get with it.
All right.
I don't even want to make jokes about that.
I guess if I just call everybody this motherfucker, then nobody would be offended about my choice of gender.
That would work.
Did you guys see these? I wanted to show you guys. Did you guys see these moto screen things that I got?
What is that?
No.
This is a decal for your windscreen, and it looks like this on the front, but from the back they're see-through. And this dude that I met at the Tour Tech rally this year, and I finally connected with him, and I told him like, hey, yeah, you want to send me some samples to check it out? But I was thinking you guys should totally get some for Cafe Racer. Because you just send him a PNG file, and then he sends you back these cool decals.
That's cool.
Turn that KTM ones around. Can you tell when you turn it around?
No, I still have the back.
Turn that shit around.
Yeah.
Peel it off.
So you people that are listening on iTunes, you can see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
My favorite part about this experience right now is that there's just a tiny bit of a delay. So I can hear my wife talking crap in the other room just before it makes it to the screen.
Yeah.
Like when she gets really excited, I hear like noise through the door.
I can't hear anything with these.
She's a shit talker, that's for sure.
I'm way too loud.
So what else was released that I missed, Spencer, at EICMA?
The Yamaha T7 concept bike.
Yeah, this Tenere, right? Like the plain Tenere.
Yeah, it's basically the middleweight. And they disappointed. They should have brought that to market. They should have been introducing a production version of it.
It was just a concept?
Yeah, it's just another year concept for testing and development. And they're really going to shoot themselves in the foot because KTM released their 790 Adventure R concept, and that is a concept as well, but it's projected that those bikes will both come to market in 2019, and the performance and weight numbers are going to be probably about 25 horsepower difference between the two of them, and the KTM will probably be about 20 to 30 pounds lighter.
So where that's going to, I'll tell you the truth, that's going to end up being a price war then.
Oh, it'll be a price war, and the Yamaha will come in for less, for sure, because it won't have the same electronics or anything. But it's just going to come down to either you like the way the Yamaha looks and it's like $2,000 less, or you want the one that performs better. And that's
I'll tell you what, if KTM because some of the spy photos I saw, they talked about saddle tanks, low hung.
Mm-hmm.
If they build that bike like the spy photos and they put a rally tower on that thing's going to kick ass for sales, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the same concept with the T7. It looks just like a big ass Dakar bike, you know. It's a big bike.
Yeah.
So they did the T7, the KTM, and then BMW announced their 850.
F850, yeah.
Which was a huge disappointment to me.
Why?
Because it's no real weight reduction. The performance numbers aren't really increased. They just come in with some weak ass game, man. Compared to like what KTM's doing, what Yamaha's doing, they really just didn't step up their game enough. It's a rehashed 800 GS, you know.
From a non-adventure perspective, Yamaha has like a new version of the FJ09. I don't know if they're calling it the Tracer 900 worldwide or if it's still going to be the FJ09 here. But it's like new bodywork, a couple minor, changes to the motor, I think. It looks nice. Supposedly it's like sportier.
Do they come out with anything official on it?
It's definitely like I'd have to go dig it up. I know that it came out, and that it's a real bike. Like it's it's model year 18 or 19, whatever. For the FJ09.
Cool bike. I rode the FJ09, liked it a lot more than the 07, obviously, but I really got a kick out of riding that bike. Especially if you put it in A mode.
The Triumph too.
Oh yeah, Triumph has that. They have new 800 and 1200s plus that like rally thing.
Yeah, and so that's pretty cool. One thing I like about Triumph is they really expand on their models, and that's how they had the regular 800 Tiger that had like the XCW and all the different models. You could really get bike on it, and they're going to kind of do the same thing with this other new Tiger. So that's pretty cool.
What are they calling this new one?
The Tiger 800.
That's just okay.
Yeah, and they dropped the word Explorer from the 1200, so it's just the Tiger 1200.
Mm-hmm.
It's
They're calling it a Tiger 1200. Oh, okay.
And I believe the engine is a little pepped up. Or it's saying it still makes the same horsepower, but the power delivery is more immediate, and the exhaust system is lighter. So, because from what I had heard initially, that it was a little bit lighter and the power was a bit better. So that's pretty exciting.
This market, I think, just keeps expanding, and it's become this more of the standard motorcycle now.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about the range before with adventure bikes, where you had, this one end where it was like more of a touring bike, and the other end where it was more of an off-road bike. And I just think they keep filling in the gaps in the middle more and more, which I like.
Yeah, the 800, the middleweight market is huge. It's taken them a couple of years, but they finally gotten to the point where they're like, oh shit, that we could meet the hardcore off-road guys and the touring guys in the middle, because there's so many people that don't ride off-road but want to look like they ride off-road, and there's so many people that ride off-road that don't want to have a touring bike but still want to be able to go down the freeway at 75, So I think the middleweight is super exciting, and it's really exciting that Yamaha, KTM, BMW, and Triumph are all, finally competing in the same segment,
You really don't see anything that Kawasaki's put out as being competition there, like the Versys, right?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, they're not even really trying.
They aren't. And people are like, well, all they need to do is put that engine in the KLR and it'll be the best bike ever. I'm like, that is not an accurate statement at all. That is like, if you love a KLR, you love a KLR. whatever, but I don't know. It's terrible. It's terrible bike. And Kawasaki is not doing anything to rectify. I can say this now that they turned us down for bikes for the first ride after the Divide. Terrible shit.
Yeah.
I rode a buddy of mine's while I was in Florida, like one day, and did not like a minute of it.
No, you're like, hey, do you want to go down the freeway and feel like the bike's gonna fall apart under you? Great, we got just the thing for you.
And then it's like, hey, do you want to attempt the slightest of off-road thing and fall over and spend a half an hour getting the bike out of it? Great. That was my experience.
The thing is too, I don't know what was going on with the kickstand on Jeff's bike. Like,
oh Jesus.
I don't even know what, and that bike was not modified in any way, shape, or form. It was, but no matter where he parked that bike, it fell over. I don't know if it's just had a bad kickstand from the factory. I've never seen a motorcycle fall over so many times for no apparent reason whatsoever.
This is the funniest shit ever when Chuck was like, Chuck showed up and we met Chuck, and he was like, did you guys really teach Jeff like that's the way that you get off a fucking bike? That is not right. He's like, that was a joke.
You got to set the story up. We were sitting around waiting I think we were in Steamboat Park in Colorado.
Steamboat Lake.
Steamboat Lake campground, and we're sitting there waiting, and Jeff comes riding up, and it's like he did a flying dismount. Like he
got off the fucker as it was moving and like flew it to the ground.
Right. Chuck kind of looked at us like, is this some kind of inside joke that you guys taught him?
We've seen this so many times that on the way there that day, I fell over going through a corner, and then Jared fell over when he saw me fall over, and then Jeff fell over when he was trying to avoid a truck that was coming, and then Josh's bike fell over on its side stand. So that's like, we were just so accustomed to watching all the bikes fall over that all of us are just kind of like laying there like, oh, Jeff dropped his bike. That's okay, cool. And Chuck's like, what the fuck, guys?
Did you guys actually teach him to get off the motorcycle like that?
So one I was just scrolling through Instagram just now, and one bike that I'm super excited about is the Husqvarna Vitpilin 701.
That thing is awesome.
I know it is funky and borderline hideous. I want one.
Oh, I think it's cool looking, and that is a great engine, and it's peppy. And I mean, you do a couple mods on it, like the 701 Enduro, and then you're like 83, 84 horsepower, like on a light bike. It's a hell of a lot of fun. You know,
there's a 701 Enduro at work that that I see, and I like does not work with me, but like I see the bike as I go to work on the base every day. And like I really, really like the way that bike looks. And the Vitpilin is like super cool to me.
Dude, you know what this reminds me of? A Hesketh.
I've heard the name. I don't know exactly
Google
what it is.
Hesketh. Hesth.
Hesketh.
It just kind of is very reminiscent of that bike. And don't look at the Hesketh Racing. Look at the production model of it, the black one. It's kind of.
I think
Are they going to actually sell this thing? I mean, this is going to market.
It's a production motorcycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
I remember when that and the Svartpilen were in concept mode, and everybody was super, chatty about them. I think the bike is.
What's this thing going to cost? You know?
I don't know.
It'll probably come in about the same price range as the 701, like somewhere 11, 10. Or...
No, I guarantee you this thing's closer to 16,000.
I don't think so.
Really? That's a badass bike, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just noticed it's only like a single disc up front. I feel like They're okay. I mean, it's a really light bike, or it should be.
Yeah, but it's funny when you get like the 701 or the 690, when you soup them up a little bit, the braking feels wholly inadequate.
Yeah.
It is startling. You need to get become accustomed to it.
Wow, this is really cool. Hey, so as we're getting closer to past an hour here, I got a letter, and we need to talk about a giveaway. Let's just
got a letter,
yeah, we got one letter. Yeah, in the mail. It came in snail mail. I actually had to find a letter opener.
Oh, you didn't want to get a paper cut. You might.
No, I'm very terrified of paper cuts.
Heal from the infection.
Yeah, I could get an infection. Yeah. So this is from Chuck, not Chuck, our friend,
just left on accident, by the way.
I was gonna say she was done with this shit. She was like,
she's just like, I'm out.
Over. You fuckers aren't funny. I'm out of here.
That's funny.
It says, "Hey guys, love the show. I was listening to Steve on an old Pace podcast talk about the Continental Divide trip and was interested in the climb gear. I currently ride with CyclePort gear and like the quality. It's going on 8 years. I think it's a Canadian company, I think they make a one-piece kind of like Aerostitch, but we'll talk about that in a second. So it's going on 8 years old now, and I'm thinking about replacing that with something else. I live in a hot climate, South Louisiana, and would like something that can handle riding in and out of the rain and offer good abrasion and impact protection. I look at the Climb Badlands gear, but I noticed that it doesn't have belt loops on the pants I carry when I ride. I need to be able to use a good, strong gun belt when I do. So my question for Steve is, are you carrying yourself when you ride? And if so, are you carrying on a belt of some type or some other method?
So I read part of that email and didn't get to the end of it.
Well, here's the thing. I can tell you that if I do carry, I'm not carrying on my person on a motorcycle. Me personally,
I think that's inside of a
bad
moto
idea.
bag, obviously.
Huh?
You hide them inside the liner of a Moscow moto bag, obviously.
Well, that's how the gun went on the first ride of the Divide trip,
and that's how the gun got rusted to shit on the first
ride. Got a little rusted up, yeah. But yeah, I would have it in like a tank bag or something like that, because I just don't feel like having it on your person on a motorcycle is a great idea. Number one, forget about trying to access it if you really needed it, because you're wearing all that gear. And especially with, the riding pants, you're not going to wear it on the outside of the pants, because as soon as you take your jacket off, it's not concealed anymore. And if you think you're going to wear it concealed on the inside of the pants, it's not going to be comfortable, and it's just not made for that. And God forbid. What was that, Spencer?
I got 3 points.
Okay, well, hold on. We're gonna get to your points in a second. I just want to finish this thought, because on the trip, if you were riding off road, the last thing in the world you want to do is fall off a motorcycle, even low speed, and have a gun sticking in your hip that's going to cause even more damage to you when you fall over. So it's just not something that I would. In all the years I've been riding and carrying concealed, it's not something that I would do. I just don't see it as a necessity, unless, of course, I was on a bike that didn't have any type of storage, and then you could carry a small gun like we had on the trip, which never needed to be taken out at all, ever. Stuck in a jacket pocket or something. But let's hear your points.
So I was leading a group ride, and I won't name the person, but she knows who she was. She was riding with a can of bear mace holstered to her hip, because she was concerned about the bears, and she fell, and said can of bear mace exploded.
Yeah, not a good idea, right?
And not only did it hurt like hell, but she got bear mace everywhere, which is not an enjoyable experience. So you fell over. So that's my 1 point. Second point is, I think Moscow has their tank bag that specifically has the MOLLE stuff. I'm not a gun person, but I would totally have it in tank bag instead. And then the other thing is a ranger told me once, there was somebody and they were asking about bears, and everybody's concerned about bears. And this guy was like, well, yeah, he said something about how big is the gun or whatever. And he's like, it's got to be, you know, you don't want to be too big because you want to shove it up the bear's ass before he like takes it out of your hand and eats you or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Bears are a completely different story, and you're not going to get, first of all, a handgun big enough to deal with a bear is not going to be concealable at all. It's a big, giant hunting handgun of a really large caliber. And honestly, on a motorcycle, everyone that we came in contact with on the first Ride Up the Divide trip said, "Thank God you guys are here making as much noise as you're making, because it's going to scare the bears away." I don't think everyone that we talked to, where there was and it was really kind of disconcerting when we would pull into a gas station like, "Oh yeah, some ranger was killed on his mountain bike last week by a grizzly." But they also said that the guy was quiet. He was riding in the woods, and before you know it, this thing was on top of him, where
he literally ran into the bear.
Yeah. The bike, I don't think, is really an issue. And if you're carrying for, this guy in Louisiana, he's not carrying for bears. He's probably carrying for protection when he's riding and
for people.
Yeah, there's a small, like Spencer said, the Moscow Moto, their new tank bag, not only does it have Molly all over it, but it's got a pocket where your hydration bladder goes, and you can fit like a small handgun like I was carrying in there. No problem. It stays concealed.
You'd have to be able, I bet you could get to the one in the tank bag way faster than getting to one like inside your.
Absolutely. It's not, it's just not, it's not effective to carry it on your person.
I've carried concealed in my tank bag before. Like when I went on that big long road trip, I carried concealed in my tank bag, which was real fun when I got pulled over because my wallet was in there too. And I'm like, "Hey, Idaho police officer, is Idaho one of those states where I have to declare that I'm concealing a weapon?" He's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Then consider yourself notified." And he's like, "Okay, cool." I was like, he goes, your wallet's in there too, huh?" I'm like, "Yep, sure is." And he's like, "Well, don't do anything stupid, and this will be an easy day for both of us." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, that's the other point I was going to make, is you better know the laws when you're going from state to state, because they do change from state to state, and you could find yourself in deep doo-doo, especially if you're in a state like New Jersey and the gun's got to be like disassembled, and one part's got to be, in this part of the car, and the other part's got to be in another part of the car. It's not.
Yeah, where you've got to like keister the magazine and take the chain, the barrel out and put it in your shoe.
It's just kind of ridiculous. Listen, and getting back to this guy's question about, in and out of the rain in the southern states, I've become a huge fan, and I'm now strictly like Badlands type gear that's a waterproof shell, and that's all I'm going to ride with. Forget rain liners of any kind, unless it's, one of these situations where it's 100 degrees out and you're going to wear ventilated gear, and if it rains, no big deal, then maybe you'll throw a liner in and go home. But to ride around, I've said this before a million times, to ride around in gear that's not waterproof and then zip in a rain liner and that waterproof gear gets wet, forget taking the rain liner out the rest of the trip, because now you're dealing with wet, heavy, soaked gear that is completely uncomfortable, and you can't not take that rain liner out now until that gear dries. So I'm a huge fan of Badlands stuff. I know it's a little bit pricey for some people, but it's super durable. When you open up all the vents, you stay cool for the most part. And it's very, very protective, especially when you're wearing it and it's not rolled up on the back of your bike.
I knew we were going to go there.
Oh
no. Yeah, protective gear doesn't work if you aren't wearing it.
True.
No, but your thoughts, Spencer, on that in and out of the rain, and you feel the same way or different?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a West Coast people, especially Pacific Northwest, we don't even think about it because it's wet all the time. So Gore-Tex is the only thing that makes sense, and the whole rain liner thing never really. I mean, the only thing I'll do in the dead of summer, I'll ride with a compression suit and a jersey and then a Climb stowaway jacket, which, like, if it's cold in the morning or if it rains, then that's a Gore-Tex shell that I'll just throw over. But the abrasion resistance, not like what you're looking for like road use on that. But yeah, I mean, especially now that Climb has a lot of like lighter weight Gore-Tex pieces, like the Traverse and the Carlsbad, that vent super well. And so, I mean, that's the only thing that I would do, especially because it lasts. And what you do one trip, like or you did like one trip where you're like, oh shit, I need new gear now because I'm gonna ride across the country, all these different climates and stuff. It's useful to have.
Yeah, no, and it's lasted for a long time, and it's my everyday gear now, so it just became really easy. And I had a set of Olympia gear that had the liners switching back and forth and zipping out of the liner for thermal protection. It's so much easier just to layer with whatever you're wearing. And if you're wearing some sort of mid-weight thermal protection layer, like I wear a Climb Inferno underneath the jacket, you get to a gas stop, you pull it off, throw it in your bag, and you're done. You're good to go. And then the other trick too is wearing the proper base layer. There are people that still like to wear cotton because you can get it wet and it'll stay wet. But I like a wicking base layer, like a compression shirt. And then if I want to wear something that's got, holds liquid into it and then dries. And like we talked about the last show, even wetting your arms is a great way to get heat off when you're wearing a jacket, not just your chest, but your arms. That's become the big thing now with firefighter recovery. They've got these chairs that when you come out of a fire, you sit in a chair, and it actually has on the armrests, there's water in them. They're like pockets, and you rest your arms down in the armrests, and it takes heat off the body really quick through the capillary action of the arms. But
Climb's got, how they have, I think, Steve, you've tried the -1 base layer.
I have a complete set of that. I like it a lot. Yeah.
So they're coming out with, I was at Climb HQ in August, and they've got the next generation of that is amazing. It's even cooler than that. Whereas you can wet it and like take something it's like warm and wet it, and you can feel it like cooling off, like it gets cold. It's insane. That's
that phase change material, and that I'm almost positive it's the same stuff that was developed for NASA.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I mean, I'm really, really excited to try that out.
So speaking of Climb, what do we got, Crash? We're giving something away, right?
Yeah, we are. We have, and you have specifically, a Climb Drifter jacket, which is the 626 line. It's Climb calls it green. It's definitely like a tan, right?
Yeah, like a khaki kind of.
Yeah, it's like a khaki tan color. It's the sort of like waxed cotton style jacket, size 2X, right?
2X, right? And it's really a beautiful jacket. Spencer's worn one, tested it. I tested it. It's just the fit and finish on their products is very nice. So whoever gets this, they're going to like it. Now I can tell you, it's definitely a jacket for like Pacific Northwest or the Northeast. It's not a South Florida jacket because there's no venting in it at all.
Yeah.
It would be good for the winter season in South Florida. It's very comfortable.
It would be a great winter jacket in like Southern California.
Yeah, I've been riding with Spencer's hand-me-down Revener jacket in the cooler days here, and it's been wonderful. So thanks, Spencer.
All right, so how do people win this thing?
Yeah, so if you hear this podcast before you go to Facebook, you can just go directly to caferacerpodcast.com/contest, or just go to our page and click the contest button up at the top. But we're going to post a link on Facebook. It's not going to be on Instagram this time. We're going to do a Facebook contest this time. We did Instagram last time. Trying to keep it, different a little bit every time. So you'll be able to find it through the Facebook page, and as usual, Patreon supporters get an extra submission. So if you submit for it, use the same email address you use for Patreon. That way I can verify that you're the same person and give you extra credit when we actually do the drawing. And you'll have 2 weeks from Saturday the 11th.
Okay, cool. All right. Anything else? Because I'm like,
I think
done.
That's it. We've got some stuff coming up. You've got stuff from Lid Picker to try out so that we can actually all have our little reports and talk about them on air with Aaron and
this
everybody,
measuring device here. I'm going to do this tonight.
There. We can find out just how funny shaped all of our heads are. I'm pretty sure mine is the least normal.
This looks like something in an alien abduction where they'd measure you or they pick you up off the ground with this thing.
No, it's actually used in like
carry around
phrenology.
Ice blocks.
Yeah.
Or phrenology, when they're like, back in like Civil War time when they were trying to measure people's skulls and prove that like criminals had certain skull features or whatever.
That's right.
I believe
and
that's completely true.
Fingerprints were like black magic.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, we'll be doing that. We're trying to work out interviews with all kinds of people. And then we've also got some plans for sort of a guest host situation, especially considering I'm going to be gone for 5 months of next year.
Whoa.
So yeah, a lot
Do I get to pick the guest host when you're gone? Because I'm going to.
Maybe.
Okay, that could be interesting.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. I've actually already had one person kind of say they're available to help out some, so we'll talk about all that stuff off the air. You can find us at all the usual social media places if you just look for Cafe Racer Podcast, Instagram and Facebook, and we have a Snapchat. Nobody ever uses it. Maybe Jess will use it one day.
We're not gonna. Yeah, we haven't really figured out actually what it does, but
I know
Spencer,
what
where
it
can they
does.
find the gear, dude? Well, it doesn't. Stupid. Snapchat is. I'm gonna go on the record right now on the show to say, Snapchat is stupid. It's for 12-year-old girls, but we've got an account, so you're gonna see pictures of motorcycles with rabbit faces on them.
Boom.
Sorry.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
What if all I want to see is pictures of motorcycles with rabbit faces on them?
That's what you're gonna get from now on.
Good.
So,
Good.
it's the direction we're going. Spencer, where can they find the gear, dude?
Instagram, the Gear Dude, Twitter, the Gear Dude, Facebook, the Gear Dude. I have a really shitty website right now, thegeardude.com, but very soon I will be launching my brand new website. So don't go look at my website now. Wait another week or so and go see my cool new website.
And you've got anything coming out on ADV Pulse?
Faces.
Let me see. What do you got?
This is a unicorn head. I don't know if it'll like focus on it. But there's like, there we go. There's like a
okay, that's cool. So we can have motorcycles with unicorns on them too. I'm in.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out the trip we did, it's First Ride Up the Divide. You can Google that. We're on Instagram. It's First Ride Up the Divide and Facebook. Someday we're gonna have a movie coming out.
Someday.
Someday, yeah. We've got a ton of really cool footage, and I've been posting some stuff on Instagram every now and then. That's some stray video footage that probably won't make it into the movie, but we've got it. So, and that's all I got. Anything else, guys?
No, thanks for coming on, Spencer. It was great, as usual. Liven up the little party we got going on here. Jess, thanks for coming on and for just dropping the mic and walking away.
Yeah, good to see your nose hairs, Jess.
So yeah, get out and ride.
See ya.